Welcome back, everybody. This is Where To Next. If you haven't watched the channel before, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, hit the share button. Welcome. Those of you that are still watching, and those of you who haven't, of course, we are in Belize, Central America, just outside of Belmopan. Me and my wife love to travel. Me and my wife have been together for about 10 years now. And one of the things that we always talk about, one of the main topics that always comes up is medical and healthcare. If we're in a different country, what are we going to do, what to expect, what it's going to be like. That's always been one of our fears, and that just happened to us recently, and it was a very, very scary situation for us. We're in a different country, and me and my wife, we're not the type of people that, if we get a cut or a cough or something, that we run to the doctors. So we rarely ever go to the doctor unless pretty much it's a serious problem. So if I were to tell my wife, if I'm in pain or I think something's wrong and I say, hey, I need to go to the hospital, then it's serious, or vice versa. So here recently, my wife had been having some abdominal pains, and it got to the point where she finally told me that she needed to go to the hospital. So I knew it was serious, and we were both scared. I was scared. She was scared, because this is the first time since we've been together that I've had to take my wife to the hospital. So it was already scary to begin with. First time having to take my wife to the hospital, and we're in a completely different country. And all we have, once again, is, stories that you hear from people. And that's pretty much what they are at the end of the day. Is everything is just a story until you experience it for yourself. So that's what I'm going to do right now is, I'm going to share our experience of having to go to the ER and being admitted into the hospital, and the cost and everything that was detailed in that, and how it was for us. So wife was having abdominal pain. She'd been having pains in her abdomen for about 3-4 days, and they were steadily getting worse. And it got to the point where she just couldn't take it anymore. Me, I'm thinking it's probably appendix. So when she told me that she needed to go to the hospital, we took her to the hospital. There's 2 hospitals that I know of that are inside of Belmopan. One is, it's like the community hospital. I apologize, I don't know the name of it right off the bat. The other one is right down the road from the immigration department, and it's called St. Luke Hospital, not St. Luke's. It's not affiliated with the one in the States. It's called St. Luke Hospital. It is a private hospital. It's not a very big facility, but they are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I take her there, and we get her there. We fill out paperwork, which was probably took less than a minute to fill this paperwork out. It was just, basic information. It wasn't your whole life story, as some people are probably used to getting in the States, where you need to give every answer, your left arm, your right foot, just to get in the door. This was, I was filling out some paperwork, and the nurse who was sitting behind the counter, she came out from her desk, and she came walking up to my wife, and she said, "Are you in pain?" Of course, my wife told her yes. So she immediately said, "Follow me." Brought us to the back. It wasn't 2 minutes later, the doctor was already in the room with us, and he was doing his test. And, he was poking around with her abdomen and everything. And so the first thing he ordered was an x-ray. So we take her back, and she gets an x-ray. So far, so good. We didn't have to wait. The facility is clean. The people were helpful. They were nice. So we're off to the x-ray. She gets some x-rays to look at her abdomen. The x-rays, they can't really tell what's on the x-rays. So they want to do an ultrasound. So maybe 15 minutes after doing the x-rays, they have her in the ultrasound room. And on the ultrasound, they took quite a bit of time. She was in the ultrasound room. We were in there for about 20 minutes as they were doing the ultrasound. So there was definitely something in the lower abdomen, but they couldn't really make out what it was. And the doctor was leaning more towards the appendix. And I'm looking at my wife, and she's looking at me, because of course, you know, this is different than being admitted in the hospital. Now we're talking about emergency surgery for an appendix operation. So my heartbeat is racing. You know, my wife is looking at me, and I can tell that, you know, she's as scared as I am. So at that moment in time, all we can do is just be there for each other. So, you know, times like that, me and my wife, that's just when we put on our boots. It's just life. You know, we can sit there and cry about it, scream about it, bitch about it, whatever you want to do. You don't have time to do anything. So the ultrasound, they looked at it, and like I said, the doctor is thinking that it's appendix. So the doctor wants us to go get a CT scan. And the only place that has a CT machine, a CT scan machine, is their sister hospital, which is called BELIZE Medical Associates. So the two hospitals that we were at was St. Luke in Belmont by the Immigration Department, and BELIZE Medical Associates, which is over by the water inside of Belize City. So the doctor looks at me and says, "How do you want to get there?" And of course I say that I'm going to drive her there. It's about an hour and 15-minute drive from St. Luke Hospital, which is in Belmont, all the way to Belize City to have this CT scan done. So, you know, we jump in the car and I go get gas, and we're on our way to Belize City. Now, keep in mind, we were at St. Luke for maybe an hour, hour and a half. So we were in the emergency room there for about an hour, hour and a half, and then we're on our way to the hospital in Belize City to get a CT scan. Now, on our way there, the doctor had my wife's cell phone number, so he calls her and he gives her the doctor's number from BELIZE Medical Associates, who's going to be there during the CT scan. And this ended up being her doctor through the whole time, because they kind of go back and forth between hospitals. So about 30 minutes out, my wife calls the doctor and says, "Hey, I'm about 30 minutes out. I'm on my way in." And he said that he would be there. And so we finished driving to the hospital. We get to BELIZE Medical Associates Hospital. And we park, and as soon as we park, I'm getting my wife out. And of course, she already has an IV line in, because they gave her antibiotic at St. Luke, because you know, the doctor recommended to get an antibiotic in her right away. So they put a IV antibiotic into her when we were at St. Luke. So I'm helping getting her out of the car, and one of the orderlies comes up. He's got a wheelchair. He basically just jumps right in. He was a younger kid, but you know, he jumps right in and takes charge of the situation. You know, ask us, you know, what we're doing here and everything. So I pretty much give him the rundown that we had a referral. So he takes us right up to the area where my wife is going to get the CT scan. So we get her paperwork filled out, which was simple. Had the referral from St. Luke. It took literally 15 minutes, and they get her in for the CT scan. Of course, they got to put dye in her first. So they put the dye into her, and they asked me to wait out in the waiting room and everything. So I wait out in the waiting room. There was a doctor that walked up to the nurse's station, was talking to her for a minute, and I could overhear him asking where the husband was, or you know, the family member for my wife. And the nurse pointed, and he came over and introduced himself to me really fast, and which I was surprised, because you know, I mean, it was a great experience, is all I can say, at BELIZE Medical Associates as well. So my wife is in there doing the CT scan. When she's done, the nurse comes and gets me. I go back there. My wife is just getting finished dressed and walking out of the room. We walk out to the waiting room, and it wasn't no more than 7 minutes after that the doctor comes out and says, "I have great news for you. It's not your appendix, but that my wife does have an infection, and she's going to have to be admitted to the hospital." So the good news was, it wasn't my wife's appendix. The bad news is she's still going to have to be admitted to the hospital and receive IV antibiotics and some other kind of drugs to help fight off the infection and get it out of her body. Now, the first thing that I want to say is that I had to pay for the CT scan right there at the desk before we went to the other part of the hospital to deal with that. And let me tell you what, this whole time, you know, just not knowing, because, you know, they don't give you prices up front or whatever. But let me tell you what, my wife's CT scan was 700 Belizean dollars, which is 350 American dollars. And I've never had one. My wife's never had one, but we've known people that have had CT scans before, and it wasn't no $350. I can tell you that. So that really blew me away. I was like, wow, $350 for a CT scan. And I'll get into what the final bill was for everything at the very end of this video. So just stay with me right now. So we go back to the emergency room there at Belize Medical Associates. The doctor comes in. There's a nurse there. She starts pumping another IV into my nurse's arm. And the doctor is, you know, pretty much telling us that she's going to have to be admitted for anywhere from 4 to 5 days into the hospital. Now, an option that he gave us that was great is that, you know, because the house is way back in Belmont, so we're an hour. If my wife is admitted into the hospital, I'm an hour and a half away, and we have, you know, feather and fur babies at the house that I just can't leave out there by themselves. So I knew I was going to have to be driving back and forth every day. Well, the doctor said you can either admit her here at Belize Medical Associates, or you can go back to St. Luke and you can admit her there. So, you know, we make the decision that we're going to drive all the way back to St. Luke and we're going to admit her there. So we thank the doctor. The doctor said that he'd be at St. Luke the next day and to check up on my wife. Now, keep in mind, since our drive over there, the original doctor gave this doctor's cell phone number to my wife. So my wife had his cell number, and she had he had my wife's cell phone number, which is, you know, I had a dealing with that in the States once, and you never really got a doctor's cell phone number. You just got a number that was a call service. So they were communicating back and forth through this entire time, and he was literally calling her on her cell phone to ask how she was doing, if she was okay, and if she had a question about a medication, she was picking up the phone and calling his cell phone, and he answered the phone every time. I mean, when you want to talk about being taken care of, I couldn't ask for a better doctor or situation to be put through. So anyways, we drive the hour and 15, hour and a half back to Belmont, and it's dark at this point. So we get all the way back to Belmont, and we drive back up to St. Luke, and we pull in, and of course everybody already knows who we are because we were just there hours before, and we have the paperwork, so they admit her. And, you know, we don't know what rooms and, you know, things are like there. So they bring us into the back, and they bring us into this room, and I'm kind of looking around in disbelief at first. I'm thinking there's no way that this is a hospital room. This room was nice. It had a flat screen TV that was on the wall. It had its own air conditioner that was in there. The bed looked brand new. There was a sofa in there specifically for family members that pulled out so you could sleep on if you wanted to. There was a leather recliner in there to where, you know, somebody else could sleep in there too. So it's not like you have visiting hours or anything like that. If you have somebody who's hospitalized, you can literally stay in that room with them. But of course, keep in mind, these were both private institutions. They weren't public. So I only know our experience is only from both of these private institutions. The bathroom for this hospital room was nicer than any bathroom in a house that me and my wife have ever owned, rented, or even the one that we have now. I mean, tile from floor to ceiling, full-size shower, hot water. I mean, the works. It was, excuse me, it was absolutely amazing, and my wife felt comfortable. And for me, that's all that mattered, is that my wife felt comfortable. So she's going to be in the hospital for about 4 days. That's what we're thinking. And this happened on a Thursday. So my wife was in the hospital. She was in the hospital Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. So 4 nights, and she got released Monday morning. So thank God the antibiotics started to work. And keep in mind, through this whole ordeal, even after my wife got out, the doctor continued to call my wife to see how she was even, you know, doing. And he even told her, he said, keep my number just for future. If anything happens to you or your husband, you can just call me right away and I'll direct you to where you need to go. I mean, that just doesn't happen back where I'm from. So you have an ER visit, you have a CT scan, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 nights in a private hospital. And I'm going to give you the total bill. That includes the medications, the CT scan, the emergency room visit, and all the nights in the hospital. The grand total was $4,016 exact American. Let me repeat that one more time. The entire bill for all of that was $4,016.00 even. And that was for everything. The private room, the 4-night stay in the hospital, the CT scan, the x-rays, the ultrasound, all of the medications, the doctor visits, everything. And what a great experience. Not only was it affordable, and like I said, me and my wife aren't rich. We're not rich. We don't have, health insurance. So of course, the cost of this was in the back of our heads the whole times. It's bad enough when you're dealing with a health situation, but it's even worse when you're wondering if this is going to bankrupt you because, we're going to have to pay out of pocket. And the numbers that we were thinking in our head, because I looked it up in the States, and thankfully, I've never been hospitalized overnight in my entire life. And I'm gonna knock on wood, but I've never stayed overnight in a hospital my entire life. I've pretty much been healthy. But I looked it up. The average cost of 1 day in a hospital in the United States was $3,600 to $5,000. And that was just for the hospital stay. So the experience that me and my wife had here, when she started feeling better the next day, when the antibiotics started to kick in, because I was, now I'm only 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away. So I'm going up there 3 or 4 times a day, which is another nice thing. I didn't have to sign in. Just walk in, wave, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, walk in there, walk into the room, go see my wife, and her spirits were up. And to be honest with you, I think it had a lot to do with the atmosphere, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a rocket scientist, but I believe that the way you think and your surroundings can have a lot to do with your health. And if you're not feeling well, changing your surroundings, just like your diet and everything else, can help you to get better. I want to say, I'm not going to go into all of my wife's personal thing, what was going on, but my wife did. She had a really severe infection that if the antibiotics didn't work, it was still going to have surgery. But thankfully, it didn't go that route. But yes, the experience that we had, St. Luke Hospital out of Belmopon and Belize Medical Associates out of Belize City, the fact that we were even a little bit worried makes us feel ignorant now, because our experience was phenomenal. Our experience was so phenomenal, in fact, that me and my wife started to joke, and we said, if we ever had to go back to the States or we were somewhere else, we both agreed that we would come back here to Belize to get medical attention if we had to, because of the cost and how we were treated. So if that's one of your worries here, hopefully this takes away some of your worry. So like I said, everything that I just detailed in that story came out to $4,016 American dollars. That was for everything. And my wife is better. And the doctor even just called her yesterday, and it's been almost a week since she's been out of the hospital. He just wanted to call and follow up with her. And he even left some kind of seeds at the front end desk for her that, he wants her to buy this specific seed and start eating it in her food because it's supposed to be really healthy for her. Just little things like that. So I wanted to share our story through this, and hopefully it'll take the worry out of some other people who are thinking about coming here. But once again, like I said, we did not go to the community hospitals. This was the private hospital that we went to. And our experience, hands down, was one of the best experiences that we ever had. And from the minute that we got out of the car at St. Luke and was directed what to do, where to go, who to deal with, come back, we never felt safer, and we didn't feel like a number. We actually felt like a person. And it didn't bankrupt us. So if anybody from St. Luke or Belize Medical Association is watching this video, thank you so much. It means the world to me. It means the world to my wife. And we're still here in Belize, and we will recommend you 100 times over and 100 times over again. So thank you for watching, guys. Please, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button. Plan on doing a lot more videos. You can see behind me, we have a 60-70% chance of rain every single day right now, so we're getting a lot of rain. And just everybody have a good week, and stay blessed. Thanks for watching.